My name is Rachel, and I plunged into St. Euphrasia Church. They have a preschool, elementary, and middle school, as well as religious education classes for students who do not attend their schools during the day. They also have social services, and youth groups for their congregants. I had a walkthrough and came to services on the day of Palm Sunday, which celebrates Jesus' entry into Jerusalem, and it marks the beginning of the Holy Week. I am a conservative Jew who attends a conservative synagogue. I grew up and continue to go to Jewish services and celebrate Jewish holidays. I went to religious school weekly and learned all about Jewish traditions, the stories in the Torah, holidays, how to read Hebrew, and many of the prayers. Therefore, I became comfortable at my synagogue and during services. While I have seen a few church buildings, I have never experienced a church service. I wanted to see the similarities and differences between Judaism and Catholicism as manifested in a church service setting and through a walkthrough of the building. I was hoping to learn about Catholic values, the structure of the church, the role of the priest, and the type of community services that the church provides. Before entering the church, I had limited prior knowledge. I knew that the Sunday that I was attending services was Palm Sunday and that the holiday of Easter was upcoming. I knew that churches provide counseling services and youth group opportunities. I also came into the experience with the knowledge that Jesus is God, that a priest leads a service, and that some prayers are in Latin. I also came in with the understanding that Jesus was crucified and that the Catholic people take something called communion, where they eat bread and drink wine. Going into the experience, I did not believe that there were very many similarities between Catholicism and Judaism. I knew that they celebrated different holidays and that they go to church, not a synagogue. This experience challenged my preconceived notions about Catholicism. Through attending the services, as well as conversation with congregants, I learned that Catholic individuals have very similar values and have certain similar beliefs when compared to the Jewish people. I walked into rooms and other congregants were there and readily shared information about the room and its significance. The Blessed Sacrament room is the body of Jesus. It is where the wine and unleavened bread is taken from, which are part of God. Throughout the service, watching communion, seeing the Blessed Sacrament room, and observing the mosaics of Jesus on the walls of the building, I developed an understanding that Catholic people value one God or Jesus. They thank God for all that God has given them and done for them. Further, they live their life where they love their neighbors as they love themselves. I did notice that they treat everyone they interact with love, respect, and dignity. Catholic people live their lives as kind, compassionate human beings who value family and community in order to thank Jesus for giving up his life for them. They are living for God. The confessional room allowed me to understand that Catholic people believe that they can be forgiven for their sins and start anew. Before this experience, I was curious to learn about the Catholic religion. During the experience, I was engaged and fell in awe of the beauty of the building. Now I feel more comfortable in this environment. I have a better understanding of the structure of a Catholic service, Catholic values, and traditions. Now I see the beauty in their religion, how it uplifts the spirits of the congregants, and the similarities between Judaism and Catholicism. My concerns were that congregants would not understand Judaism and why I did not cross myself or take communion. I was also nervous to introduce myself to people in a congregation that I had never been before. I was worried that I would not know what to do during the service. I was also worried about how the congregants would react when I did not sing or participate in the service. I followed along in the prayer book, but I was not responding with the congregants. I stood up when I was told. During the service, the priest told the congregants what to say in response and when to stand up. I felt the warmth of the community as someone introduced themselves to me when I entered the building. I did not feel that I needed to explain what I was doing there, and I did not feel judged at any point. Congregants may have noticed that I did not participate in everything fully, but I did not feel judged at any point. I felt welcome. The congregants were kind and thoughtfully answered my questions. I was introduced to the priest, who was more than kind and very honored that I decided to visit his congregation. He did not judge or question why I was there. None of the congregants nor the priest tried to instill their values upon me. They chose to include me in their palm-waving ritual without hesitation. I did not participate in the blessing or took communion, but I did not feel that anyone looked at me differently. Even though I did not participate by verbalizing the prayers, receiving the blessings, or taking communion, congregants still saw me as part of the community and asked to shake my hand at the end, saying, "Peace be with you." Attention and social cognition were active during this experience. I feel as though I had to carefully observe individual congregants conversing amongst themselves and the priest before I was able to engage in any conversations. Further, during this service, as it was my first experience, I wanted to be observant of everything around me. I did my best to do so. I learned about the value of exploring another culture, especially one that many of my future students will be a part of. I will be able to connect with these students and their families, and be better able to talk about their religious traditions and practices. I also developed an understanding of the values that guide Catholic families. I will be cognizant of the capital that my Catholic students bring into my classroom. I learned that Catholic families value family, one God, community, social action, and forgiveness, which also guides my religious tradition. My experience and knowledge will benefit my future pedagogy. Akin to my experience, I realize that many of my diverse students may feel uncomfortable when they first walk into my classroom. I now see the value in allowing them to slowly observe the room, talking to them about their families and about their backgrounds. I will ensure that those around them are welcoming and supportive, just as I felt during this experience. After this experience, I will be conscious of the perspectives that my students bring into the classroom and incorporate them during my lesson planning.